Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Since last winter, the number of people dying homeless in Britain has exceeded 500, according to the latest research by the Bureau of Investigative Journalism. In our continuing collaboration to chart the deaths of people sleeping rough or in temporary accommodation, they've also found that local authorities across the United Kingdom are failing to carry out proper investigations into virtually all of those deaths. Minnie Stevenson has been investigating the effects of homelessness in Northampton, and a warning: some viewers may find parts of her report distressing.
Home is these streets, that sleeping bag, this pavement. I've come to Northampton, where rough sleeping is a grim reality. People aren't just living here, they're dying here.
I've given 62 eulogies because nobody else was willing to speak up for these people.
Tonight we reveal that more than 500 homeless people have now died in the UK since last winter. This programme has been collaborating with the Bureau of Investigative Journalism to expose the numbers and names which have gone unreported. You want us to stop filming?
It's okay. No, film it so people know what's going on.
A sobering reminder here at Northampton Hope Centre for the homeless. They've lost 19 people in just 18 months. A stone to remember their names, the lives cut short. And yet Channel 4 News has learned that not one review into homeless deaths has been carried out in the Northamptonshire area in the last 2 years. Stephen Craig was 51 when he was killed in a road accident. His friend Ambrose told me he misses him.
I miss all my friends. I think about them regularly.
Somebody said to me earlier that it feels a bit like we're non-people.
They do feel like they don't belong. These people are not homeless because they're junkies and winos. They're homeless because something deep down, a core event happened in their lives to bring them to homelessness.
Robin runs the Hope Centre here and says, like their lives, homeless people's deaths are going unnoticed.
We've seen so many deaths in the last year. If people really cared about these deaths, they would have set these review mechanisms up already. It would already be happening, but it's not.
The BIJ found that at least 554 people died while homeless across the UK since October 2017. 85 of those died on the streets, 23 in hospitals, and another 60 people in temporary accommodation. Where more than 300 others died isn't known. In October, Housing Secretary James Brokenshire conceded on this programme that homeless deaths needed reviewing.
I think it is so important that we understand what has caused those deaths, actually having serious case reviews, which have not been done effectively beforehand.
And yet the BIJ has found that only 8 official reviews have taken place into homeless deaths across the UK from 2010 up until May this year, despite it being a legal requirement in England if it's suspected there was neglect or abuse involved. In June, Chris Matthews was stabbed to death by his flatmate while living in a halfway house for homeless people. A man was later sentenced to life in prison. Chris was in and out of rough sleeping before he died. Vince told me he used to sleep next to him here in Northampton.
Do you ever worry that something might happen to you?
Yeah, I do, because I sleep here on my own. Can you imagine sleeping here on your own at night?
Are you ever frightened in those situations?
Yeah. Well, you don't sleep. You know, the expression sleep with one eye open.
Next thing I know is I was on fire.
You're on fire?
Yeah.
Terence very nearly died on these streets too. He has dementia and is alcohol dependent. While rough sleeping at this bus stop, a gang of teenagers, he says, set his sleeping bag on fire.
I woke up and I was in flames.
Some people had thrown some petrol on you?
Yeah.
And then set you alight?
Set me alight, yeah. And I was fast asleep.
Until the BIJ's investigation with Channel 4 News, there were no UK-wide records of the numbers of homeless deaths. It's since prompted the Office of National Statistics to later this week, for the first time, release their own official figures. But just how so many are dying still isn't being investigated properly. While nobody stops to find out why, hundreds of people's lives and their deaths are passing us by.
Well, the Housing Secretary, James Brokenshire, has just sent us a statement in response to Minnie's report there. He says that every death of someone sleeping rough is one too many, and that the government is investing £1.2 billion to tackle all forms of homelessness. He says the government has committed to making sure safeguarding adult reviews take place when appropriate.
A hotel has been accused of discriminating against homeless people after it cancelled their Christmas bookings suddenly. A charity in Hull had paid more than £1,000 for rooms for 28 people on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, but they were told they couldn't now stay after allegations of theft and damage at the hotel last year. Another hotel has now stepped in for free, as Danny Savage reports.
Christmas last year at a hotel in Hull. People here summed up the season of goodwill to all by paying for a load of rooms for the homeless to stay in on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day.
It was for 2 nights, but it felt like a lifetime, you know what I mean?
Mark was one of those who benefited.
When we got into that hotel, it was a godsend. A couple of nights in the bed, didn't want to get up for all day, you know what I mean? Not thinking, you know what I mean?
Because it was that special?
Yeah, it was that comfortable, you know what I mean? They didn't want to get up.
This year, 28 homeless people were booked into the Royal. But over the weekend, the hotel cancelled the booking. They say alleged trouble at last year's event is why they've pulled out.
This, for me, is all about giving a bit back to the community.
The man behind the effort to pay for the rooms denies there were problems last Christmas, as does the hotel he used. He spent the day looking for alternatives.
Christmas is the saddest time of the year for the homeless people because they get to reflect on what they've lost and the family that's missing out on. Suicides are at the highest of the time of the year, and if we can just prevent one suicide, it's well worth it.
As we filmed at the Royal Hotel, 2 homeless men who were hoping to be part of the Christmas stay emerged from a warm doorway.
Some people might be a bit uncomfortable sharing a hotel with a whole load of homeless people, but what's the reality of it?
Well, last year I didn't think we got any bad looks from anyone or anything. I didn't think anyone looked down their noses or that. I thought everybody just kind of took it in their stride and thought we were just normal paying customers as well, sort of thing.
It means everything, really. It's the best Christmas present you could get, really. Yeah, because it is just such a relief to be off the streets, even for that one night.
This evening, the fundraisers announced the Doubletree by Hilton will accommodate the homeless group over Christmas, meaning about 30 people won't be sleeping like this in a week's time. Danny Savage, BBC News, Hull.
It is that time of year when thoughts turn to those less fortunate than ourselves, of course, and nowhere is that more apparent than in the city of Hull. Thanks to the generosity of the people there, a Christmas tradition of offering rough sleepers a roof over their heads has been established. But this year, the goodwill has hit a bit of a snag, with the hotel booked to host the homeless suddenly reconsidering.
Like almost every city in the UK, Hull has a homeless population visible in its streets and in its doorways. And at a time of year when people are looking forward to Christmas, some here are trying to make the lives of Hull's rough sleepers a little more bearable. Last year, one group of residents clubbed together to raise enough cash to put up 24 or so in a hotel for a couple of nights, a gesture that was much appreciated. But after raising the money again this year, Carl, a cafe owner whose idea this was, has found out the hotel rooms he booked have been cancelled with no explanation.
Very disappointing. I mean, we actually went out on the Thursday after we'd paid in full to do our soup kitchen, and we told some of these rough sleepers that they're going to be sorted over Christmas. They've got somewhere safe to stay, and they was over the moon. We haven't actually told them that it's been cancelled yet. We're not looking forward to doing that.
For 2 months, members of the public have dug into their own pockets, raising just over £1,000 to book 14 twin rooms at this hotel in the city centre. But over the weekend, the hotel called Carl to say he'd have to look elsewhere. One of those who would have had somewhere to stay on Christmas Eve was Shane. He lost his home in East Hull some time ago and had been looking forward to a break from the cold and the wet.
So by the time I woke up in the morning, I'd have been nice, I'd been on some shower, nice and warm, and put my new clobber on, you know what I mean, and then be able to go and do my duties for Christmas Day, you know, and so now basically that is a big loss. You know what I mean, for Christmas Eve.
The Royal Hotel issued a statement this evening saying they were prepared to reinstate the booking with some conditions, but fundraisers say they've already found another hotel in the city that's happy to accommodate them. Damon Green, News at 10, Hull.